Okay, I am back. Today we are discussing literacy strategies with my guest, Farida Goodwin. Remember, if you have any questions, please call in. The number is 425-569-5169 and hit the number one. So let me go ahead and connect her. Let's see. Farida, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi.
Hi, how are you, Beth? Good
I'm
evening.
good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that little intro, the breather where you said just take a deep breath. And that just really, took all the jitters away. So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, it's important to breathe. Well,
Yes.
I'm so happy that you're able to join me and just take some time out of your day and support families out there listening or whoever's listening. Um, so, do you want to tell like the listeners about yourself? I already mentioned that you're from New York. I'm from New York too,
Yes.
and you're a longtime educator. How and why did you first get involved in teaching literacy?
Well, you know what? Thank you for that. And one, thank you, Beth, for having me. I truly appreciate it. And I hope the information helps someone. That's the goal. And so
Yeah.
I really, like you said, and I love those two snippets that you share.
Hmm.
Similar to Jacqueline Woodson, I also grew up, in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in the projects. And, we didn't have much, but my parents really stressed education. And
Hmm.
so I remember taking little trips to the library with my dad. And, I just fell in love with books. I agree. Reading
Right.
aloud is the key. And so he would read to us. And I don't remember exactly how I learned to read, but I know that I was reading in kindergarten with my teacher, Miss Bagley. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, that was similar to you. Um, I loved being read to, but when I learned how to read, like you just couldn't
Hmm.
stop me. And so that's when I fell in love with it, you could say.
Right. So were you one of those kids that always had a book in your hand, like book in your face? I know
Yeah,
I
I
was.
thought, yeah, I think that I don't know. Maybe you were more of a bookworm than me. I loved reading in my room when I got home
Hmm.
from school. After,
Okay.
after I watched my little chipmunks and I did my homework, I just curled up with my favorite book, which was Mouse Soup. And
Okay.
yeah, I just started
Hmm.
reading then. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you first get involved in like teaching literacy?
Oh, that's a great question. So I knew at a very young age, math wasn't really my favorite. I think what saved me was once again knowing how to read and comprehend.
Hmm.
And that's how I was able to, work my way through math. But I said, okay, I want to be a teacher. And every time that I would, I taught various subjects, but whenever I taught the reading or the literature piece, something just
Hmm.
went off, it was just excitement and joy. And, I said, before this is all said and done, I just want to focus solely on literacy. And so I
Okay.
started, working in Midtown where, I was, like I said, teaching various subjects. And then I moved to charter where it was more of a pull-out situation in small group. And then that
Hmm.
led me to my opportunity at the Department of Education, where now I solely work with literacy and helping teachers have best practices in literacy.
Right. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I think it's awesome just to be able to focus on one area so you can,
Yeah.
you can master that area and just focus on that one thing. And I know your title is a literacy coach. So
Yes.
what does a literacy coach do?
So pretty much, my charge is to go into schools that are struggling in the areas of literacy, whether it's the foundational skills, the comprehension. I mean, I feel like you need all of it in order to become
Hmm.
fluent. And so I go in and I do two things. I do a few things. I work with administration to look at the data and see where the issues are. We come up with a plan to support those teachers from kindergarten to second grade. And then we start pulling small groups of scholars that are struggling to break the alphabetic code. And, we just keep looking. And I feel like you're constantly, being very reflective and teaching and changing your practice in the moment. That's what makes, I feel like, a good literacy coach.
Yeah. That's awesome. That, I actually agree, because every child is different. Every child learns differently. So you have to be able to change. So let me ask you a question. Do you find teaching rewarding? And I ask that because I know a lot of teachers that don't feel, appreciated and doing it for a long time. I know sometimes the fire slowly starts to burn out.
Yes.
And I don't think that of you, because when I first spoke to you, like, you sounded so pumped. You're just so excited about what you do. But do you find it still rewarding?
I do, and I'm not just saying that to say it, and I'll tell you why. I think it really has to do with your experiences. Like I said, I know for me, growing up in poverty, I'm grateful just to be here, right? And so there were teachers who saw something in me, and they took a risk, and took a chance with me, and they gave me a little, more extra support if I needed it, or, they, motivated me. And so whenever it does feel a little daunting, because it does, it's reality, I tend to go back to that and say, well, pay it forward, because someone saw something in you, and now it's your turn to see something in someone else.
Yeah,
that's what
awesome.
Keeps me excited. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it's refreshing to hear that. Just someone with so much passion for what they're doing. And I had another question. So I listened to some of the live videos. I talked to you before about that. The live videos that you have on Facebook. And I'm not sure if you have them on YouTube. I watched the one that was called Get Lit Part 3.
Yes.
I wasn't able to find Part 1 or 2. And maybe you can, tell me how to find it.
Yes, we'll do.
But you were talking about like blending words and consonant tapping, I believe it was called.
Yes.
Tapping words. And that's the first time I've ever heard of the tapping method. So I was wondering if you wanted to talk about that or explain how that method works.
Sure. So I think something, and like I said, I really love those snippets that you shared, because it really speaks to a lot of what's happening now with the next generation learning standards and the advanced literacy, where they want scholars to be by the 21st. Like that's all that you keep hearing. And so for a very long time growing up, we were always told things like, look at the picture. That'll help you figure out the word. Well, for me, that goes against the science of reading. And if you look at what that says, it says that not every text will have a picture, that you're going to have some strategies in order to attack that word. And one of the strategies is called the tapping out method, which focuses on segmenting and blending each sound in order to make meaning of the word. And so based on, we like to start out with three letter words like cat. And you just teach the scholars that my thumb is touching my first finger, which that would be the k sound. Then my middle finger is ah, and then my last finger is t. And then I'm sweeping my thumb across those three fingers to blend the word cat. And so that often helps them to segment and blend.
Right. And it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense to do that. And I like the fact that they're using their fingers.
Yes.
And they're using that another sense to learn. And, being an educator
Absolutely.
myself, I'm always interested in learning other strategies, knowing that there's many ways to do something, many ways to learn.
I agree with you, Beth. I am too. And another strategy that I recently learned about it when I was getting trained in this program called Letters, which deals with phonemic awareness and phonological awareness and like how the brain thinks about letters and sounds, is called the heart strategy. So, growing up, anytime that we saw a sight word, we were taught this is a word that you have to know by heart. But that's not true.
Right.
86% of sight words are decodable. And so part of the word, I can tap it out. The other part I have to know. And so little tips and tricks like that really help scholars to break the alphabetic code.
Yeah. So you were talking about sight words. Do you want to explain like what a sight word is for those who don't know?
Sure, my pleasure. So, like I said, growing up, we've always known sight words to be the words like a, the, I, is. And, we were told that you have to drill. So I have to put them on index cards and I have to keep showing you over and over and over until you commit it to memory. Well, when a scholar is unable to do so, it impedes their ability to read. And so there is a method called the heart strategy where I can look at the word with, and with, I can tap it out. I just have to know that TH makes a sound, and there you go, with.
I have to watch you do that. So you tap out you're doing two taps.
Yep. So I'm tapping out the W. So I'm going woo, and that TH. I'm teaching scholars to put a heart over that because that TH is the part that you have to know it by heart. Just like in the word, let's say in the word was, I can tap out W. That A is actually making the U sound, so I'm going to put a heart over that. And the S, I can also tap. And so when we teach them that way, they know how to break it up and read it with automaticity.
Wow, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
It's
so. So, did you learn those strategies in your training, or did you like make up some of them on your own?
And so, a lot of the things that I teacher created were around comprehension and getting you to understand questioning. Those phonological awareness and the heart strategies, I was trained in those things, which, like you said, it's all about giving kids access. So multi-sensory programs, those are my favorite because, everybody doesn't learn it right away. It doesn't mean that they're not capable. They just need another entry point. And so those things I've been trained in, but the comprehension, you just learn it, you're changing your instruction in the moment.
Right. So with comprehension, do you have different strategies for helping children to comprehend?
Absolutely. And so what I feel with the comprehension, and I see this a lot in schools, is that they focus a lot on factual questions, like what is the setting? Who is the person? Where we really need to be diving, if we're looking at how to prepare them to be critical thinkers and problem solvers, we need to be really focusing on inferential and critical thinking questions, like how can you use the images and the author's point of view to answer or come up with your own wonderings. Those are the kinds of questions that we really need to be pushing. And I love that you said that your son listens to a lot of audiobooks, because I love those too.
Okay, yeah, he does.
Yeah, and so no one is really there with him. He's doing that independently, but if we're asking those kinds of questions, he can do that on his own.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what are your thoughts about I guess like the different audiobooks and the different apps that they have out online versus children just reading like a hard-covered book?
So I agree with you, Beth, when you said that you need both, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
kids need to be able to grapple with a book in front of them, because it prepares them for, what my son, I have two sons, and one of them, he wants to be an engineer. Well, that's not an audio. He's going to have
Right.
plans right in front of him and working with, his partners to kind of, create something. And so I think that when you expose them to both,
Mm-hmm.
you're making them well-rounded, And so I'm not against audiobooks. I love audiobooks because I still love being read to, right?
Okay.
But I think giving them a thinking job as they're listening to those audiobooks sets them up for success.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I just think that everyone learns differently, and
Yes.
both of my children actually like the audiobooks, but my son especially likes it. I mean, he'll listen to stories. He listens to stories every day. He's always been
I love that.
into language and books. Now, you have mentioned that you wrote a book, and we didn't get into like what the book was about, I don't believe. But can you tell us about your book?
Okay, so I'm
like when you wrote it. When did you write it?
Yes, so this book has really been like a love letter to Brownsville and Fort Greene, Brooklyn, parts of Brooklyn. And so it's been a long time coming, and I'm actually in the process of finishing it up. But this book is, it's all about motivational quotes. I found that, I've chosen to work in various settings, but for the last 6 or 7 years, I've worked in settings where, it was low income and struggling academically. And so in order to help them with literacy, I've had to motivate them and get them to see their greatness. And so it's really around quotes and inspirational tools to support with learning.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah. Well, we always need some inspiration.
Yes, I agree.
And I told you should be thinking about like creating some workbooks, because I know, many families who are interested in just getting more strategies and interested in different types of workbooks, especially if you have videos that go along with them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just an idea.
And I appreciate it. What I would like to do is share with you, and I'm going to email you something, and it has to do with the comprehension piece of it, and it's called the transferable questions. And so I feel like that would be very, I use them with my sons. I've used them in the classroom. And that would be very beneficial when looking at, written responses and answering questions while reading.
Transferable questions. So what type of questions would it like? Give me an example.
So it's one of the questions that I shared with you a few minutes ago about the how and the why questions, and it's based on the next generation standards. And so I sat down and I created a lot of them myself, as well as my partner, and who we've been teaching together for a couple of years. And, we just found that it's really useful, and it exposes them early on. So when they see these questions on, let's say, an outcome assessment, like a state exam, it's not like I'm baffled. Like, I've seen this before. I know how to answer it, and I know how to think about it.
Okay. So it's a better way to get them prepared?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. You can definitely send it to me, email it to me. There was another question I have wanted to ask you that, I hear a lot of parents ask if their child is not interested at all in reading. What are some ways that, you tell parents, or what are some ways that you can help a child become interested in reading?
So I think it's the same thing. I agree with the young lady you just had the snippet. It's about the read alouds. Um,
Mm,
when you read aloud to them, and like I said, I've had scholars who really were 2 years behind. They went into second grade, they were in a kindergarten reading level. Not
mm-hmm,
only are they not interested in reading, but their confidence is shot. And
mm,
so when I
right.
would read aloud to the class, I would do it with such excitement and enthusiasm that my love for it now triggered
Mm,
something in them. And
right.
so another resource that I love, I read this book. It's called Molly Ness, Think Big, um, Think Aloud. And,
Mm-hmm,
she talks about how, and she gives, and like I said, it's interesting because as educators, you just kind of know what to do. But as parents,
right.
sometimes you don't know where to start. But what I love about this book is not only does it give you examples of great read aloud books, but it also gives you the
Mm-hmm,
questions to ask. And so that's
mm.
like half the battle right
Oh,
there.
that's good. Yeah. For
Yeah.
comprehension. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I think sometimes with parents, I think if their child is reading, once their child starts to read, they should just always be reading. And they don't,
Yeah.
they forget or they just don't understand the benefits of reading out loud. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're right.
I agree with you. And I think also letting them choose, like I know my sons are like, it's always a battle if they think that I'm the one telling them what to do, but
Oh,
taking
right.
them to the
Letting them choose
bookstore.
what book.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
yes, yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
And,
I agree.
and
Yeah, I
getting
agree with that.
excited
Getting
about
them
that.
to choose something that they're interested in. Um, yeah, my son right now, he's interested in, oh goodness, I can't remember the name of it. It's a specific author. But he just listens to this one author constantly, and it's all good. Like that's what he enjoys doing, and
Exactly.
okay. Well, is there any other strategies? Anything else that you want to share?
Sure,
I
Beth.
don't
So
see any other callers. Um, and there's a few people that are listening actually live on YouTube. But if anyone
awesome.
has any questions for Farida, you can ask. Now, Farida, I know that you're thinking about starting up a podcast. You had
Yes.
mentioned that. Um, have you thought more about it?
Yeah, I've thought more about, centering it around the different passions, the things that I'm interested in. And
Okay.
obviously one of them would be literacy. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, so you kind of, lit the flame in that area. So I was like, okay,
So what
I
what
have
else
to
are
do
you
it.
interested in? I know I've seen some of the videos on you do a lot of talking on spirituality.
Yes.
But what other things are you interested in?
So I'm really interested in, like I was saying, in motivation,
Okay.
and mindset, because sometimes it's
Mm,
so easy to, have someone else pump you up, but there are moments where there's no one else there. And so you have to be
absolutely.
your own cheerleader, and so having
Absolutely.
conversations around that, um,
Yes.
I think are
Yes.
key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I absolutely agree. And especially when you're doing a podcast, like I was telling you before, uh, you might not have anyone to talk to. So you're just pretty much it's like you're talking to yourself. And if you're going to be talking about motivation, the first person you're motivating is yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but I believe you can do it, and I'm looking
Yeah.
forward
Thank you,
to
Beth.
to hearing your first show.
Yes, I'm like super excited. And I know you just said I wanted to give you just a few more tips,
Okay.
because I think you just asked. So um, I, as parents, and these are things that you can purchase or you can look them up online because they're free online as well, and through YouTube. But if your scholar is or your child is struggling with letter sound connection, I love the program Sounds in Motion, where it's, yes, it's by Frances Santor, and she teaches you about movement and how that helps to trigger the letter sound connection for them. I also mentioned the heart strategy. I'm definitely an advocate for decodables, preferably the Bob books, and that helps with those scholars that are just starting out.
Oh yeah, I love Bob books.
Yeah, they're like
we use them. We use them a lot.
Yeah, it's absolutely best. I think also that we've gotten away from this, but with the Foundations program, they're a big fan of it. Is dictation. So having them, say the letter, the sound, or even say, "Can you give me a sentence with the word, backpack?" Those things are key. Read aloud. And the thing that and something that you said earlier, Beth, that one of the benefits for read alouds is that people think that if I'm reading a story to you, or if I ask you to read something to me and tell me what you read, that's only me assessing your comprehension. But when I'm reading aloud, I'm building your comprehension because you're seeing how I grapple with the story. And definitely vocabulary.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think reading aloud, when you have a young child, you should be doing it every day. And even young children, like they're absorbing everything. Absolutely. And I even encourage parents to read in their native language.
Absolutely, Beth.
So, yeah, I'm definitely an advocate for reading out loud.
Absolutely, I agree. And that's so, I haven't heard that in a long time, so I'm happy that you brought that up. But it's key. I mean, oftentimes we have scholars in our classroom who, are ELL or language learners, and right away we're like, I want to try to teach them English, and that's not how they learn it. It's learning in their native tongue as well as English, and that's where they start to break the code. Like you can't do one without the other. They need both. Right. Yeah. So I agree with you on that one, Beth.
With the sounds in motion, that sounds familiar, but what is that exactly?
So it was actually created by a speech pathologist who was used in the Orton Gillingham Foundation program, but she saw with her clients, but she saw that some of the students, due to speech and language and various other disabilities, weren't breaking the code. And so she created Sounds in Motion, which is pretty much movement that makes sense. It correlates with the science of reading to help trigger what the sound is and how it connects to that letter. And so
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you know about Montessori education, but we use something called sandpaper letters when we're introducing the letters, and the children learn to trace the letters using their fingers and moving, using their fingers in sand.
Yes.
Excuse me. And then they learn to write the letters, and then they combine the sounds to make words. But they're first learning how to feel and move their hand along in the sand. And then they have this material called the movable alphabet, which is also something that they're feeling and moving the letters around and feeling the different shapes being able to manipulate them into words. So I think movement is something that's important when we're learning.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Because like you said earlier, there is, that's another thing that I tell parents. Knowing how your child processes information is key to not comparing. And
Right.
so, I agree with you. I think that we've gotten away. I don't think, I've seen it. We've gotten away from various modalities of learning because we are preparing for big assessments and so forth and so on. But, we need to go back to that, because that's how not only are you able to reach 85% of your scholars when you're showing them various ways of getting to the answer, but
Right.
also you are teaching to each individual learning style.
Right. And going back to what you said, there's so many different ways of learning something.
Yeah.
There's multiple ways of learning. So it's awesome that you can you have the opportunity to do that, and you're an advocate for these children. I'm happy that you were able to share some of the strategies. Is there a way that people can connect with you? Do you have like a YouTube channel? Or are you building that up?
So I'm building my YouTube channel, but I am on social media.
Okay.
And
do you want to give out your information?
So sure. So it's Farida Goodwin, and that's FaridaGoodwin. And so I am on Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram.
Okay. Was there anything else, Farida? I'm glad that you joined me.
Yeah, I had so much fun, Beth.
And
thank you for having me. Yeah,
good.
I was like a little nervous, but you're just so easy to talk to. So I just
thank you. So are you. When we first spoke, I felt connected with you the first time we spoke. So don't be nervous talking to me, please.
It's a new experience, right? So, but yes, I thank you for having me, and I just hope that the information that we shared, it really helps someone to break the code. If that's the goal.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. You gave some really good strategies. Well, I'm hoping to hear your podcast soon, and hopefully you come on my show, again soon.
I will. I'd be honored. Thank you so much, Beth.
Okay. All right. Well, take care, and we'll talk soon.
Take care. Absolutely. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, that was Farida Goodwin. It was nice for her to join us. And, hopefully she will come back on the show. I think she gave some really great strategies to some families out there who are listening. And just a few announcements I wanted to make. Our platform here at Hindsight Radio has several shows. The Bun Bay Show on Mondays at 7 p.m., the Truth Tuesday Show with Akeem L. at 7 p.m., Solomon Temple Show on Wednesdays at 10 a.m., Divine Connection Show on Thursdays with Tasia and Jessica at 7 p.m., and, of course, my show, Raising an Independent Thinker, every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. And please, connect with us each week. It was wonderful talking to you guys, and I'm hoping that you all come back next week and listen to the show next week. Okay, take care, everyone. Have a great night. Have a great week. Stay blessed.